Hey everybody, in about a minute, we're going to go ahead and get started with today's LionSide Chat. Thanks for joining us. All right, everybody, welcome to Penn State Berks FYS We Are series presentation via the LionSide Chats. We are savvy, money counts. My name is Sonia Delaqueto, and I'm one of 3 LionSide Chat moderators working alongside Dawn Pfeiffer-Wright and Dr. Ryan Hassler. Come on in and welcome to our campus. We're so glad that you could join us today. Before we get started, we wanted to share that you should please feel free to submit questions throughout the program via the Q&A feature. And once the presentation concludes, there is going to be a discussion with our presenter. We will also be recording today's session, so you can revisit the topic later or even share the experience with friends and family. So now I am very excited to introduce Sarah Metzger, our education program specialist, joining us today from the Sokolov-Miller Family Financial and Life Skills Center at University Park. Sarah, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Sonia. I really appreciate it. Nice job with the name, the center title as well. Sometimes folks get a little tongue-tied with that.
Practicing.
So nice work. All right, I'm going to get started in just a second once I can confirm that everything is seen. I have my colleague Sarah, the other Sarah in our office, also joining us here. So I'm going to look for a thumbs up from her that she can see my screen. Thank you so much, Sarah. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity to come in and speak with you all on campus at Berks. What's really terrific about Penn State and the Penn State community is that we are all connected, I'm finding, as someone who is newer to the Penn State family. And I really appreciate that while I am here located at University Park, our center and our services, our programming is available to all students across the Commonwealth campuses, including Berks. So I want you to kind of keep in mind if I am mentioning anything service-wise throughout this presentation, this is all accessible to you remotely where you are located. All right. So just to kind of give you a little quick background on who I am and what I'm here to talk to you about today. My name is Sarah Metzger, and like Sonia said, I'm a specialist with the Financial and Life Skills Center. In my role, I am lead presenter, so I tend to go out to our first year seminar classes and teach about the basics of financial literacy to really help kind of fill some of the gaps that might exist for students once they land here at University Park or elsewhere. Like I said, I present also out to the Commonwealth campuses. And this financial literacy overview presentation is just that. It's an overview. It is a nice drive-by of all the really important topics in financial literacy that you need now and for the future for really your financial success, right? So I'm going to kind of break that down as we go along, and I want to encourage you to ask questions. I do have the chat open on my screen as well as the Q&A, and I'm happy to address questions as they come up if they kind of fit within what I'm talking about. And like Sonia said, we'll address those remaining questions at the end, but don't hesitate. Don't hesitate to share your inquiries. This is a really great space for learning, so let's take advantage, right? So our center is really committed to, just as Penn State is, right? It's all kind of together here, but we are committed to empowering you as a student with all the financial knowledge that you need and really, best practices that you can apply in life to remain in the driver's seat when it comes to your personal finance journey. That's the goal. And so this presentation is set up in such a way where we're going to address both the knowledge aspect of financial literacy, like what are the really solid pieces of information I need to understand, and then how can I use this information in my day-to-day experience starting today. So I'm going to share some things that you can do starting today to better position yourself financially and really work towards higher levels of financial wellness. So when we talk about financial literacy, it's similar to other literacies, right? Where we learn how to do someone, an expert teaches us, we go out there and we do it, we practice, like when we learned to read and write as we were going through K through 12 education, right? But the thing about financial literacy is that it's not just learning from an expert and then going out and doing what that expert tells us we should do, we also have to include an element of personal reflection to enhance our financial literacy. Personal finance is inherently personal, and how we feel about money, our attitude towards money, what we value, that really matters quite a bit. And that's going to inform how we operate, right? Our money behaviors. And so as I go through this presentation, I'm going to touch on the knowledge and the practical techniques that you can use, but I'm going to ask you to be hyper aware of what do you feel about money, right? What are your thoughts? How does it make you feel? And how is that going to kind of factor into what you do next with all of this information, right? In terms of the outcomes, like I said, I want you thinking about, what does money matter to you, and start to couple that with what I present to you in terms of the competencies. There are 5 for financial literacy. So when we kind of talk about, well, what is financial literacy? Like, what makes it up? I'm going to outline that information to you. I'm going to talk to you about the Kab principle. So if you've ever asked yourself, well, how do I improve my financial literacy? This principle will guide you, right? And then at the end, we'll get to some of those practical steps that you can take to really remain in that driver's seat, like I said before. So just as we go through, hyper reflective, just really, what does this all matter to you? And where are you kind of sitting at in your space, in this journey that you're on, right? So this takes me to the start. A really great question, a question of why. And why is always a good question. My background is in teaching in the public school system. And so often I would have students ask, well, why are we learning this, right? Like, why does this matter? And so I want you to think about why financial literacy matters to you, right? I'm going to ask you to just think. You don't necessarily need to input to the chat unless you really want to, but why do you need financial literacy? Are you looking to build a budget for yourself, right? Are you finding that you get to the end of the month and suddenly you have less money than you anticipated, right? Or you're falling short on covering your expenses, the needs in life? Or do you have student loan debt that is starting to accrue? And as you approach graduation, you're really wanting to work out a plan for repayment and figuring out, well, how can I balance all this, right? Or maybe you're just interested in opening up a credit card for the first time and you kind of want to figure out, well, how do I navigate that scene? Where do I go from here? What's the jargon that I need to be familiar with, right? Maybe you just are a little bit stressed out. Maybe when you think about your money, when you think about your accounts, that you're just, it's causing a little bit of anxiety, perhaps. That could be. And hopefully, the goal is that financial literacy is reducing that stress, right? Any kind of money stressors that are coming up for us. But that also, if we are trying to make financial plans for ourselves, we're trying to build a budget, we want to make a debt management plan for ourselves, we want to buy a home one day, right? We want to afford that fabulous car. We want to make sure that we negotiate for our first starting salary that we know is fair for us. Whatever you feel like you need financial literacy for, it's going to address that. It's going to address those concerns, those questions that you have, or it's going to help you to reach the goals that you have for yourself, right? Financial goals. Ultimately, financial literacy gets us to an elevated level of financial well-being, which we would kind of break that out to say you have financial security, meaning that you can deal with the day-to-day expenses, you can manage the unforeseen expenses that start to come up, right? And they do. Emergencies happen, car accidents, medical visits to the hospital, things get broken, phones break, right? And in addition to having financial security, you still have financial freedom for yourself, right? I'm gonna really circle our little clip art man here who is just rolling in the dough. I want to emphasize that financial literacy is going to get you that security and freedom. So life is not going to just be a grind where you're working day to day, trying to make ends meet. We really want to make sure that students, staff, faculty, whoever is tuning in, many of our resources that we offer are free to the public. So this is relevant to everybody. We want to make sure that you have high levels of financial literacy, high levels of financial well-being so that you can do exactly what you want in life and you are happy while you're doing it, right? So how do we get this for ourselves? How do we enhance the financial literacy that we already have? Well, it all starts with the KAB principle, which I mentioned earlier. So the KAB principle is a funneling together of all the things we know about money, actions that we're going to take with that knowledge, and then ultimately the actions that we take over and over again and we find that they work for us, they stick and become habit, and they're behaviors, like withstanding behaviors for a lifetime is how I like to explain that, habits for a lifetime. So I want to maybe draw some parallels to this principle. Everybody, I want to say, is familiar with it to some extent, just to kind of make you feel more comfortable in this space that you can do this work around financial literacy. I'm going to connect the principle to New Year's resolutions and dieting and exercise, which is such a common New Year's resolution. I know I have set resolutions like that for myself. I have friends and family that have done that. And we apply that principle, this KAB principle, in moments like that. Let me explain. So we all, I'm making generalizations here. We know how to eat healthy. We know how to exercise. We know what to do for our overall health, right? And January 1 is coming up. We start to make a plan for how we're going to act with that information. We obtain a gym membership for ourselves. We go out and buy new sneakers so that we can run on the treadmill at the gym and not slip and fall. And we get new gear, new clothes, new water bottles. We're ready to rock. Right? We start making those plans, taking some action. We go to the gym a few times, January 1, January 2nd, January 3rd, and then sometimes we start to fall off the wagon, don't we? I know I've experienced that and seen folks, for better or for worse. Maybe because we weren't taking actions that worked for us, that we were unable to kind of stick with the plans that we set for ourselves. So if I am, using this metaphor of the gym membership, well, let's say I failed in my New Year's resolution health goal because I don't do well working out by myself at the gym. I'm paying for this membership, but I'm isolated trying to figure out a workout plan for myself. Maybe that's not what's best for me. Maybe I need to do something in a group setting, group exercise classes, right? I'm going to tell you that, this analogy kind of aside, when it comes to financial literacy and getting better, there's going to be trial and error. We're not going to necessarily know what actions to take the first time that work for us because there's no one size fits all model for financial literacy. So I just want to encourage you all to be comfortable in failure. That is a part of this. I have made some financial missteps in my life, but be prepared to revise, reflect and revise, and apply this principle to grow in your own personal financial literacy. Now, once you understand how to improve your financial literacy, I want you to think about, well, what content do I need to understand, right? And this really falls into one of 5 competencies. That's how we break it down. So we look at earning, saving and investing. What can we know about these things? Spending money, borrowing money, and protecting money. The more we can know about these competencies, the greater our financial literacy will become. So I just want to check in with the group. I know we have a lot of folks in attendance, and so the chat might just like blow up very quickly, but I'm just going to ask for a really short response here because I'm always curious to know which of these core competencies is maybe most relevant to your life right now. Maybe you are gearing up to apply for jobs. And so earning a salary is really like front and center in your mind right now. And you might say earning is most important to me or most relevant right now. Or saving and investing. Maybe you're looking to do a little bit of investing. You're considering different investment vehicles and you'd like to get started with that. But if you're able to, just really quick in the chat box, drop me a line. What's important to you right now? I'm seeing a lot with earning so far. Some saving and investing, some saving, earning and investing. Okay. Lots of saving. I was just in a presentation to a group of first-year students yesterday, and every single student raised their hand and said, Sarah, saving and investing is so important to me right now. Understandably, arguably every single competency on the screen right now is very important. But whatever's a priority for you right now, I really want to encourage you to be hyper aware of the information that's coming at you on the following slides, because I am going to detail each of these competencies. Okay, we got a good balance here. Although I don't think I saw anybody say protecting. How curious. Okay, all right. So we'll get to saving and investing in just a second. Let's first get to earning, which some of you said is a priority for you right now. And when it comes to earning, what we need to know, notice how this is set up as KAB, right? Knowledge and what I can do with that information. What's really important to understand about earning money is that what we think we're going to earn sometimes isn't always what lands in our bank account, right? Our boss might offer to pay us $10 an hour. Let's say we worked 10 hours last week and we're expecting a $100 paycheck. Lo and behold, I actually get a paycheck that's somewhere more around $70, $75. Ugh, what happened, right? And that's that difference between gross and net paycheck that we all need to understand. What we're offered by our bosses as a salary or as an hourly wage, that's our gross pay. What ends up, coming at us via a paycheck, that's the net pay. That's what we're getting paid post taxes. And what I want students and really anybody to understand is that the difference is going to be somewhere around 30%. So we like to tell students when they're planning for like post-graduation purposes, trying to make a post-graduation budget for themselves, looking at that first salary offer, expect to be making at least or around 30% less than that, right? And that's going to vary, right? Your W-4s, your withholdings might vary how much money you decide to withhold for tax purposes. That could impact what your paycheck will look like. But in general, somewhere between like 25 to 35% of our paycheck is going to be withheld for taxes and other deductions. So we want to kind of keep that in mind so that we're not overspending with money we thought we were going to get, but then didn't actually because it was deducted for taxes, right? Now, additionally with earning, it's important to understand, and I don't ever say this to patronize anybody, that education is important. So, you're gonna make a salary one day. You're going to have this pay in your first full-time gig. You might already be in that space. You're making this money, and hopefully you're making as much as you want that's sustaining your lifestyle because you went to school, you got a degree that allowed you to advance, right, into a higher position for yourself. Now, if you are still in undergrad, maybe you haven't decided your major yet, or you have decided your major, kind of regardless, I'm going to ask you to just kind of think in your head for a second. Well, have you done some research to figure out how much that degree can earn you later on, right? Maybe. Where have you done that research? Have you asked Google? Have you gone to the Department of Labor's website, their occupational outlook handbook? Have you kind of checked that to see, well, what are folks earning with this degree in this occupation across the states, right? I'm going to send through the chat to everybody an additional resource, another tool for your toolkit that will allow you to do some research to really figure out, what is the degree I'm getting from Penn State going to earn me? Or if you've already earned that degree, right? No matter, whether it's from Penn State or elsewhere, what's fair market value for me, right? As an employee, somebody working in Pennsylvania or perhaps elsewhere, I'm going to send to you this website that comes straight from in-house Penn State. weearn.psu.edu. If I were you, I would scoop that out of the chat box, copy and paste that, maybe pull up a new tab and take a look. But what's really great about this website is it offers a bunch of data visualizations of actual Penn State alumni earnings data. So if you're trying to get a sense of like, well, what is maybe fair pay? What are others with the same degree earning right after graduation, maybe a couple years after graduation? This website is going to give you that information. Now, again, it's not every Penn State alum, and it's not going to be the end all be all of information, but it's another tool for that toolkit, a place for you to do some research, to kind of figure out, well, what does earning matter to you, and what kind of lifestyle are you looking for post-graduation, and what degree is going to get you there, right? If you're doing some comparison shopping still, I would definitely take a look at this website. So I like to point that out there, because your education is your investment for the future, and you want to make sure you have good return on investment there, don't you? All right. Now, once you're earning money, you can do stuff with it, right? You can save it, invest it, borrow more money, and protract. Let me try that again. protect what you have. All right, I'm going to get this. So many of you said saving and investing is really important to you. It's relevant to you in your life right now. And I would say first and foremost, if saving is number one priority, are you saving at least 10% of whatever money you make? It's a really good rule of thumb. Do you have a savings account, or is your money being saved in a jar on the counter? We would always encourage individuals to save money, save 10% of whatever money they have coming at them, if it's via a job, if it's birthday money, if it's holiday money, if it's a refund, right? If it's grant money that you have, like maybe like some of the COVID relief money coming at you, save at least 10% because saved money grows. Put it in a bank deposit account and let the compound interest that's happening in that account let your money grow over time. Now, I get that those of us who are familiar with saving and investing would say, well, Sarah, saving money is not going to generate a ton of interest for me. Yeah, I can put my money into a savings account, but I'm only going to get a couple cents back over the course of the year. And that may be true. So if you're interested in growing maybe some long-term wealth for yourself, I would suggest looking into investing. And as a student, it might not be on the table for you right now. You might not have the funds for it, but you want to get ready for opportunities, maybe post-graduation to start investing. Okay, you can do that. It's going to yield probably the highest amount for you, right? Investing is high return, but it's also high risk. We talk about alternative investments, getting started in startups or getting invested in a startup company, or doing some work with individual stocks, right? Investing in individual stocks, mutual funds, things like that. There's always a little bit of risk involved, some risk more than others. So when it comes to saving and investing, we would want you to really do your research. This is where our center kind of comes in, and I like to make a good plug here. So even if you are out at Penn State Berks and you're like, there's no way I would be able to get up to, University Park to talk to Sarah about any of this, that's fine. We offer one-on-one consultations via Zoom. So if you have questions about how to get started with investing, what is robo-advising, what is cryptocurrency? I was following GameStop back in January, February, like what was going on with all that? You can come talk with us and get answers to those questions so that you feel more comfortable before you proceed into some investing endeavors that you want for yourself, right? Always a good option. Saving and investing, both great options, but you got to kind of figure out, well, what works for you. It's very personal, and I couldn't just say one would be better for you than the other. That's a conclusion you'd have to come to yourself, right? There's that introspective piece of, well, what do I know? How risky of a person am I? What matters to me in life right now? What kind of goals do I have financially for myself? Okay. With saving and investing, I also want to emphasize that, it is important to start thinking long-term, not just like, oh, I want to invest in the stock market, but like, I want to start maybe saving and investing for my retirement. And for some of us, that might be really far off, but the more time we have on our side, the better, because money grows over time. And the more time we have, the more the money's going to grow, right? So kind of keep that in mind. Sooner rather than later, today's a great day to start thinking about, well, what can I get ready for with my retirement? What accounts can I get set up for myself, right? Or what about, if I want to buy a house one day? Houses are expensive. How can I start planning for that now? If I want to have a family, children are expensive. How am I going to be able to afford that? Start planning now, right? Something else I wanted to point out on this slide. Now, some of you are going to say, oh, I'm more of a saver, Sarah. And then some of you will say I'm more of a spender, and that's okay. I'm a little bit of a spender myself too. We all spend money. That's just like the nature of life. But when it comes to spending money, if we really want to be financially literate in this particular competency, it's important that we have a heightened awareness of our spending habits, as in, how much am I spending? Where is that money being spent? Am I spending on things that I need, or am I spending on things that I want? And do I have an idea of where my limits are, right? So we would always encourage folks to develop a spending plan, AKA a budget, right? A chance for you to say, this is all the money I have, here's all my income, and I'm going to spend it on this, 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 and that, and I'm not going to spend more than that. Right? So that you have enough for the things you need, and you still have money left over to spend on the things that you want. You got to be aware of what is a need for yourself versus a want, and be prepared to trim back if there is a little bit of a spending leak and too much is getting away from us in terms of the wants. So I'd say, if you're looking to kind of get your spending under control, take a look at subscriptions. Subscriptions are a place where we tend to have a leaky budget, where we are paying way more for subscriptions than we realize. We have more subscriptions than we need. Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, HBO, ESPN Plus, blah, 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 right? Do you need all that? Or would you suffice with just like one or two, right? So be thinking about, well, what kind of subscriptions do I have? And am I spending money on the things that I really feel like I need? And is this worth it to me? You want to have those kind of financial goals in mind and figure out, well, is your spending in line with that? Is your spending, or are your spending habits going to allow you to reach the financial goals that you set for yourself? I also like to point out on this slide, the last bullet point, get the best value for your money. And I point this out because it's a personal preference of mine. I love to thrift shop, right? I said I like to spend money. I like to spend money at the thrift store. And I do so because I am concerned about the environment, but I also know that I'm getting the best value for my money. I can walk into Goodwill and buy 10 items of clothing or 10 articles of clothing for the same cost that I would pay if I walked into the mall and I bought like one or two articles of clothing, right? So just really be thinking about like, where can you kind of cut costs and get the biggest bang for your buck if possible. I would encourage you, always encourage you for that. Now, I'm looking back at the chat. I still don't, I think we got maybe one or two borrowing. So some of us feel like borrowing is really relevant in life right now. And maybe we're thinking about obtaining student loans for ourselves. Maybe we're thinking about a car purchase, or we're at the stage where home buying is really relevant. Or maybe we're just thinking about our credit cards, getting a credit card or managing the cards that we do have. All kind of deal in borrowing money. And I want to emphasize on this slide a few things. Number one, we don't ever want to borrow more than what we need. And if we are borrowing money, it's because we know we can pay it back. So like when we spend on our credit cards, we're only swiping at the store for that food, for that coffee, because we know that we can pay it back, right? When the bill comes due. That's really very important. Now, whether or not you are going to have the ability to borrow, be approved for a credit card, be approved for a student loan, a private student loan, I should say, federal student loans don't require what I'm about to explain, but this is all kind of based on your credit score, which is like your financial GPA. So I really want to stress to you that just as much as you care about your GPA in high school and now that you're in college, you got to care about your credit score just the same. Many times when I speak with first year students, they say to me, Sarah, I don't know if I have a credit score. I haven't checked my credit score. Everybody can check. There are a lot of great free resources online like creditkarma.com. Some of your bank cards will have apps that are automatically pulling your credit score for you. So kind of keep an eye on what that score is doing, because it's a key to getting that apartment you want, getting a loan for a car that you want, getting a really great interest rate for a mortgage for a house that you really want, right? But it also can be an obstacle. Poor credit scores might lead to housing denial, where we don't get the apartment we want, or we can't get the loans that we need, or potentially we're denied employment. I do know of one student in particular who worked with us a while back who was denied a job because a background check revealed a poor credit score. And that's really unfortunate. And so usually something that could be avoided, right? So just be hyper aware of what your credit is doing. Go to Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, pull your free report from each of these agencies once a year to kind of stay on top of what your score is doing, right? Now, some of us said protecting our money is really important, as it is, right? You get that money, you don't want to lose it. So some things that we can do. Number one, going back to credit, make sure your credit's protected. Where's that social security card at? Is it locked away safe? Nobody's going to get it, right? Because with a social security card, some bad actors out there could open up lines of credit in your name and start racking up bills, not paying them off, because criminals don't, they're not kind in that way, right? If they're going to steal your identity, they're going to make sure they maximize it for themselves. That can lead to poor credit. That can really hurt you and hurt you in other ways financially further down the road or in the immediate time, right? So we want to kind of cover our bases. Where's all of our sensitive information? Is it secure? Okay. I would also encourage anyone to be thinking about insurance. As a student, you may be covered by your family still, right? You might have health insurance and car insurance, but all of that is kind of taken care of by your caregivers. And so you might not know too much about it. Pro tip, go talk to your folks. Talk to whoever is helping to insure you and ask about that coverage. Get familiar with the jargon that way. I would also encourage you, if you are one of the, I think, 800 students who are living on campus at Berks, or even if you are living off campus, renter's insurance can be so useful. Let's say your dorm floods or your apartment floods, or there's a fire in the apartment next door and it damages some things in your own apartment. Who's going to cover that, right? If you don't have an emergency fund, if you weren't saving money for these rainy day emergency situations, renter's insurance could help cover the cost to replace whatever is damaged or destroyed in some of those kind of crazy freak situations, right? So definitely something to look into. Super cheap. It's usually about $10 a month. So it's like 2 cups of Starbucks, right? That you could instead be spending on renter's insurance that will help cover you in case of an emergency and your very important expensive belongings like your phone and laptop are destroyed, right? Okay, now that's all the kind of content, the information, the knowledge piece, right? So earning, saving, investing, spending money, borrowing money, and protecting it. Once we kind of know what each of those competencies is all about, we can act with that information in ways that are going to benefit us. So first and foremost, I would always encourage students, anybody really, to start a budget. It's like the foundationally best way to improve your finances, hands down, hands down. Just by a quick, I don't know if y'all, I don't know if we can do show of hands. I don't think those reactions are built in here. But if there's anybody who does currently budget, I'm going to ask you to just in the chat make a quick note about what you use, just to kind of get a sense of it and share with the group some of the options out there for maintaining a budget, right? When it comes to budgeting, there's really one of two things you could do. You can either increase your income or decrease your spending to bring things into balance. Ultimately, if I make $1,000 a month, I'm spending $1,000 a month too. I'm not spending, $2,000 a month because now my budget's way out of whack. If I make 1,000, I spend 1,000. And I know that might sound weird because some of us are going to say, well, I don't want to spend all of the money I make. And you're right, you shouldn't. You should save some, but saving and investing are considered expenses because we're giving that money away, right? And not giving it away, but we're putting it out into an account. We're not using it for other expenses. So it's not staying with us in that sense, like quote unquote. So what can we do? Well, if we have to get our budget into balance and we're like, well, let me see if I can increase my income, work a part-time job, work a full-time job if you're able to in the summer, right? Or whatever kind of time opportunities you have. Seasonal work is fabulous. Turn your trash into cash, right? I love Plato's Closet when I was in college. I sold clothes there all the time. In addition to working part-time. I wasn't particularly talented in other ways. I wasn't crafty. I didn't make things to sell on Etsy or Facebook Marketplace, but if you could have a side hustle like that for yourself, do so. And if your age and stage and financial situation permits, maybe you look into rental income, buying property to then rent it out, or doing some more investments and earning those income, those dividends over time to boost your income that way. That's a potential, but that might be a more later on down the road kind of situation for some of us. On the other hand, we might need to decrease our spending. And so when we're looking at our budget, we really want to make sure we're paying attention to our bills. We are looking at where our money is going. How much am I spending on food? How much am I spending on subscriptions? How much is my car costing me? How much is this house costing me, or this apartment costing me, right? And where can I kind of trim up and slim down those expenses? Subscriptions, really big place to look to find leaks, but I'd also say food. Overspending on food is sometimes an easy thing to do, even when we're grocery shopping. We buy food when we're hungry and then we don't end up cooking it all over the course of the week and we have to throw some out. see if you can reduce spending that way, and add more money back into your budget because you are doing some planning ahead for like meal prepping and things like that, right? Ultimately, everything needs to be in balance. And so I'd say take a screenshot or actually like pull out your phone if you're on your laptop and take a picture of this budget that you see, this pie chart on the screen. Because what we got going on here is a really healthy, legit budget. These are not just frivolous numbers that we kind of threw together here and said, hey, you should spend this much on your transportation cost or this much on housing. This actually comes from the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. And they found that people who are happy, healthy, they have job security, they have financial well-being, this is a budget that they tend to follow, right? Where they're first and foremost saving money every month, but they also are capping their housing costs at 30%, whatever number that might be for you. If I make $1,000 a month, that means I'm spending no more than $300 in my housing costs, right? My entertainment costs are limited to 5%. I am accounting for debt payments, right? Everything should have a place here kind of categorically in terms of your spending. If your pie chart doesn't look like this, that's fine. Most students do not have a pie chart that looks like this. Eventually it will look more like that, right? Once you hit the workforce. But for now, it's okay if it doesn't quite match. That's okay. And it's okay if your pie slices are bigger or smaller than the other ones up here. I used to live in Chicago. I was paying way more than 30% for my rent relative to my income. But you know what? That's okay. I just had to slim down in some other areas. That's fine. You just got to make it work. Make sure you're spending no more than 100% of your net income, what you're making after taxes, plus any other kind of money you're getting on the side, right? Really important to keep in mind. Now, specifically for students, although, you know what, I will say that a lot of these tips are relevant to everybody, but of course our presentation is geared more towards, the students out there at Berks. Some quick tips I want to share for you, and these are vetted from other students that work in our center, so I didn't make this up. Things you can do to take control of your finances, to better position yourself financially. Utilize the tech that you have. I didn't see anybody drop a comment about how what tools they might use to budget out there. But I want to say that if budgeting is like priority for you right now and you're like, I got to get my budget together, let me recommend Mint. You Need a Budget, Truebill. We have an Excel file on our webpage that is free for download, that has all of the formulas pre-built, and it's super straightforward and has directions in there. But utilize the tools that are out there, the tech tools, for good if that's what works for you, right? I know my Chase app likes to tell me exactly where I'm spending with my credit card, and it notifies me and it gives me a full summary and it doesn't hide anything from me. So that's been very helpful when it comes to sticking to a budget for me, right? But other suggestions: avoid impulse buys, take advantage of free activities that are going on campus at Berks or elsewhere, right? In the community, there's probably some activities going on, maybe more so in the summer, but see what you can do that's free and cost efficient. Carpool if you're a commuter, or find ways to kind of get around on campus, or get to where you need to go that hopefully is maybe not always relying on Uber or otherwise, which for students at UP can be a real serious concern, over spending on Uber. And just kind of stick with the plans that you make for yourself. If you are living on campus and you've got a meal plan, budget that. Have an emergency fund for yourself. So commit to saving that 10% each month, or from whatever money you make. If all 10 goes into your emergency fund, that's fine. Or if you're kind of splitting it between, I want to take a vacation fund and my emergency fund, 5% here, 5% there, whatever, just commit to it, right? That's really very important. When it comes to credit, pay your credit card bills in full and on time if you do have a credit card that you are managing. Best thing you can do, hands down, to keep your credit solid at a nice score. There's a lot that influences our credit and our credit score, but paying your bills on time and in full is very helpful. I'll also point out, this is very student specific here, in terms of attending Penn State and covering the costs of tuition and everything else, look for scholarships first. It tends to be decentralized. So once you've identified your major, the colleges tend to do the awarding of scholarships. So be aware of who you need to be in contact with. I would also recommend you check out the Office of Student Aid. So studentaid.psu.edu, they have great resources on vetted scholarships and how to obtain them. And their social media is also a really great source for that information too. If you need to rely on student loans to afford your education, that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but you have to be a responsible borrower. So pay attention to how much you take out. Be aware of what LionPath is offering you. LionPath isn't offering you, but that's where you see it, right? Don't take more than you need. And sometimes students do. They take the full amount that's offered to them, but they don't need that. Student loan should only cover the necessities while you are in school, not all the extra stuff like those Uber rides and going out to eat and going to the movies and whatnot. As you're borrowing in student loans, stay on top of that balance so that you can get ready for your repayment plan post-graduation. Talk to the Office of Student Aid. Go to studentaid.gov to take a look at what your federal student loans are up to. And if you have private student loans, be in contact with those lenders as well. Don't be shy about that. For students as well, this is very student specific here. If you're looking to save on cost, you may have started, let's say you're at Berks because you'd like to do the 2+2. Maybe you want to start at Berks and save a little in tuition before transferring to UP or to one of the other campuses. One of our student ambassadors, actually, that was his plan. He did 2 years at Berks and now he's here for his first year at University Park. That might be a cost saving measure for you. But no matter kind of where you feel like you're going to land or spend your 3.5, 4, 5 years at Penn State, I want to really emphasize and make it clear to you that talking to your advisors is just, it's like got to be priority number one, right? Trying to navigate the scheduling scene on your own is okay, but potentially risky. I'll tell you, I personally did not take advantage of my advisors when I transferred. I did community college for 2 years when I was in college a long time ago. And when I transferred to my 4-year institution for the last 2 years, I set up my schedule myself because that was what I was used to. I didn't talk to an advisor, and ultimately I ended up taking a class I already had credit for from my time in community college, and I didn't get that money back once I found out that I made that mistake. You know, my university was not interested in paying me back because I didn't do my due diligence and talk to an advisor to make sure I took the right classes. So please let that be a cautionary tale for you. Talk to your advisors, figure out that you're on track, right? How long do you want to take to graduate? What kind of classes do you need to take in what order? Are there prereqs that you have to get out of the way? And when it comes to how many classes, see if you can take more than 12. You should be able to, but I'm talking like balance between like work, life, school, whatever you have going on. Can you sustain more than 12 credits? If so, it's all billed at the same rate. So it's like buy 12 credits, get 3 for free or get 6 for free. Everything is included after that, right? And so this could allow you to graduate even faster. In fact, our student ambassador who went to Berks for the first 2 years is going to graduate in 3.5 years because he took additional classes each semester, as well as I believe some summer work. So what's your plan, right? How are you going to cut down on your costs here at Penn State if possible? See if you can figure that out. Talk to your advisors. Now, I want to point out lastly here in terms of tips for students, it's really important to consider taking additional classes if possible, what I was talking about on that last slide, because let's say you only take 12 credits and you decide you want to drop a class because it's not going well, what have you. Well, sometimes your student aid is contingent on full-time student status. And if you drop below 12 credits, you lose that status, which also means that you could lose access to that funding, which is bad news for you because you told Penn State in this student financial responsibility agreement that you're going to pay them what is due, of course, right? That's just part of the arrangement. So it's really important that you have a plan to maintain your funding, to maintain your academics, to just kind of keep the train rolling at the speed and on the course that you want, right? Ultimately, we kind of bundle this together. All of the competency information I shared at the beginning, some of these strategies that we can use today, tomorrow, next week, next month, we put it all together, and that's going to get us to a higher level of financial well-being. Meaning that we have security, like I said at the beginning, you can cover those day-to-day, month-to-month expenses and the emergencies that pop up, and you still have the freedom to spend whatever money is left over on the things that you want, whatever you're passionate about, whatever your hobbies are, you can indulge in all of that and not feel guilty. and still be able to cover the things that you need to, right? Live life harmoniously. That's what we want for you as a student. If you're not a student, I want that for you just the same. But if you are a student and you want help achieving higher levels of financial well-being, you want to really push forward this financial literacy journey that you're on, we can assist. So my last slide here, one of my last slides here, is detailing what we as a center offer to you as a student at Berks. We have one-on-one consultations that you can book on our website via Starfish. You can book via Zoom. So of course you don't have to come all the way up to University Park. We can chat with you wherever you're at, your bedroom, on campus, not in the car. Please don't do Zoom in the car, but whatever's comfortable for you, right? We also have group classes. So if you have a student organization that you want me or any of our other team members to come and speak to you about flow, which is our overview, or saving and investing, or car shopping, or salary negotiation, credit cards, credit, mortgages. We have 28 different topics we could present to you on. Take advantage of that through our website as well. We also have self-study modules on Canvas, which are accessible through their website. Nothing is tracked, no login required, and you can kind of do some independent study of these topics on your own if that's what is of interest to you. We have more webinars. I know you took advantage of the LionSide Chat here, but we also host webinars twice every month, starting again in January on the 25th. We're going to talk student loans, so you can tune in that way. Everything's also recorded, just like the LionSide Chats are, so you can take advantage of that. And most important, well, I say most importantly, it's all awesome stuff, but you might find this very useful. We have a mentoring program where if you go to our website and you fill out the application, we can connect you with a Penn State alum who is able to kind of coach you on this financial scene, on your finances related to school, to post-graduation, what have you. They've walked where you walked, they sat where you sat, they made it out successfully, and they're in the workforce, and they're ready to come back and kind of share their wisdom with you to make sure that you are on track for success as well. So don't be shy. If you know you benefit from that mentor-mentee relationship, connect with us and we'll get you connected with a mentor who's able to assist. So I'm going to leave you with our Listserv sign up. If you have your phone out there, you can go ahead and scan this QR code, which is going to take you to our Listserv sign up so that you can stay connected with important events that we have going on at the center, as well as resources that we tend to email about. We just sent an email, I believe yesterday, about our brand new meal plan budget sheet that's on our resources page. So if you want to stay up to date with what's going on there, please do sign up this way. And that's everything I have for you all.
Sarah, you exceeded my expectations today.
Oh, thank you.
That was phenomenal. Like, what great information for our students. And as I was sitting here listening, and I will invite the audience to start submitting some questions that they have for Sarah while we have her here live today. But I kept thinking about how many similarities there are between time management, which is what I do with students, and financial management. And I was like, that is like amazing, really good stuff. And I also wanted to thank you for your vulnerability and sharing some of those personal experiences. And I think that's so important too, because we work at an educational facility. We're here working with students, and I often will share like, hey, I'm still paying off my student loans from college, so those are very real things. And I wish I would have taken more ownership as a college student to realize, like, I'm not just signing forms, like this is going to come back to me someday and I will have to address it. So thank you so much for that. Again, I would invite our audience now, if you have questions, please feel free to submit them at this time. There's a lot of you out there. And Sarah was very thorough, so I will give you that. Okay, here's our first question. Okay, so what is the SMART, SMART, to reach personal financial goals?
So my thought is this is the SMART criteria for setting a goal, making sure that a goal is specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, relevant. There's depending on what you're looking at online, and then timely or time bound. And so when it comes to making sure that we should set financial goals for ourselves, but, to say, I want to eliminate my credit card debt versus I have 2 credit cards, a Visa and a Discover card, and this is the total balance, and I'm going to pay off this much per month over 12 months and blah, 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 so on and so forth. We really want to make sure that our financial goals are detailed so that we can formulate a roadmap to achieving them, where we're not going to get lost or get off on a detour and then ultimately never arrive at the goal. So when we say, set a financial goal for yourself, please make sure it's smart.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sarah. And as I was sitting here listening to the presentation, I was thinking about, I mean, there's so much out there for students, right? And I think, again, to go back to that vulnerability word, like how can a student make that move? I know that we have all of these resources, but what are some of the things that somebody can kind of say to themselves, or that we can help students to understand, like, hey, it's like, this is super important. Like, how can we help to encourage them to reach out to you?
So I think, talking about finances is so taboo sometimes. It's really sometimes very uncomfortable to talk about not doing well with our finances. Like, I have shared that I've made some missteps in life, and we want to look like we have it all together and we know what to do. But reality is, we probably didn't have the most comprehensive financial education when we were younger. These are not necessarily universal standards for education across all states. And so we just have to be very honest with ourselves that if we want what's best for us financially in the long run, we have to be okay with being a little vulnerable and tapping into the fabulous resources that Penn State offers. We are doing as much as we humanly possible to connect with students. There's thousands of students out there, and we are trying to reach every single one of you, right? To let you know that it's okay to have questions. A lot of the questions you might have, you could get an answer to on our website without even having to talk to anybody, right? You don't have to feel like, oh my gosh, I have to set an appointment with Sarah and tell her that I don't understand something and ask these questions and feel uncomfortable. Not the case. You can go to financialliteracy.psu.edu and do some of that research yourself. And that might be enough for you. And you go, I'm good now. I can proceed. I have this good information. I've got some suggestions for strategies. I'm going to try them out, kind of feel out what works for me and go from there. But, if you know that you're somebody who needs a guide on the side, then do take advantage of that. Have those inquiries. No question is a dumb question. And honestly, there's so much to personal finance, and personal finance and being financially literate, it's not reserved for the finance majors, but I was not taught certain things as an education major. And so, we just have to be honest we got to fill some gaps. It's okay. Super, super safe via our website or talking with us. We are very professional. In terms of our services, everything is confidential. So I don't want anyone to think that there is risk or too much vulnerability associated with connecting with us.
The only risk would be not doing it.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Oh my gosh. If I had this presentation, my first year of college, and somebody had emphasized to me, Sarah, make sure you talk to your advisors. Okay. At least then I would have been like, well, maybe I should talk to somebody. And they would have said, Sarah, you already have credit for this. Don't take this class. And, it is a risk to not say anything, to not seek that support. We might make more missteps than we intend to, and some might not be super costly, but some could be very costly for us. And I know that that's not a risk I'm willing to take anymore in my life. So I'm okay with being honest and saying, you know what, I don't know that. I'm going to go look that up.
Right. Absolutely. And paying it forward to our audience who has access. I mean, like you said, from your bedroom, from your dorm room, while you're at home with your family over Thanksgiving, like having some of these difficult conversations that could really have a long lasting positive or negative impact on the rest of your life. So I'm going to get ready to close up the session unless I see another question or comment pop in. But I would really like to thank you so much, Sarah, for chatting with us today. And I definitely learned how those knowledges and actions and behaviors can impact students both short-term and long-term when it comes to their finances. So thank you so much. And I'd like to also thank our audience for joining us today. As you click out of the webinar, you're going to receive access to a survey. So please just take a few minutes required to complete that survey to let us know what you thought about today's chat, and even offer some ideas for future chats as well. So that being said, I am going to go ahead and do a shameless plug for our next chat that's coming up after Sarah. We are going to have our next We Are series chat on community engagements. What's in it for me? Following our break. So on Wednesday, December 1st at Common Hour, and that will be presented by Dr. Donna Chambers. So thank you so much. And be sure to come back again and meet with other faculty, staff, or Penn State students to learn about the experiences that you can be a part of here at Penn State Berks. So signing off, we want you to stay safe, Berks and beyond. And this has been the Penn State Berks LionSide Chats. Bye, Sarah. Bye, Sarah. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you, Sonia. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.